Hello and welcome to today's content, which will be the Omega raid since it has been announced. And yeah, basically the item that we'll be getting from the Omega raid is going to be the diamond coat. But yeah, without further ado, let's begin and talk about Omega. Here we are for the resistances for the raid. For Omega specifically, it's going to be negative 15% to missile and negative 10% to light. From here, he's going to be 0% to all other elements. He's going to have a defense of 20 and spirit of 0 with a faith of 60. So yeah, just in general, it is not recommended to bring magic attack type users because it's at 25%. Yes, theoretically speaking, you could probably use Helena here, specifically if you had Cypress Pile for the magic attack resistance penetration. But yeah, outside of that, I wouldn't really recommend it too much because it does have only 60 faith instead of anything higher. So what you want to bring specifically is going to be missile damage, light missile damage, or light units in general, because light units will deal a good amount of damage in return. There's no important debuffs or imperil resistances that the boss really has that you have to really worry about, so don't worry too much. I know it does have a max HP debuff, which is not really too relevant right now, even though it is something to talk about, but yeah, it's not really too important. Espers specifically with Dark or Machine Killer are going to be listed here. As you can see, it's going to be like Death Machine, Freezes, Scorpion, Carbuncle, as well as Two-Headed Dragon. There are other Espers as well that do have more, but these are just a few of them, for example. You want to bring Dark / Machine Killer specifically because that is what Omega is. And lastly, the damage you'll be taking from Omega specifically will be Dark magic attack types magic damage, pretty much. So bringing a good amount of spirit as well as like magic attack resistance would be a good idea. Additionally, Omega also spams sleep and paralysis, two things that can heavily screw up your runs if you are not resistant to them. So yeah, make sure you bring some resistance in some way or form if you can. So setting up for the raid, highly recommended units or that have elemental advantage or damage typing, and they are light elements specifically because Omega is dark. Number 4, like the first 4 I could think of would be Elena. Not only does she have the slash attack penetration, she also will hit very hard and chain very easily. Kilfei here is the only one that will have her light imperil against the boss, will not only increase her own damage but all light team members in the party as well damage. So she will be capable of dealing good enough of damage and helping her team out to hit cap damage much more faster. Jaden was technically quote-unquote made for this, mostly because he is a light missile attack, as well as he hits to the magic attack instead of the defense, and with 0 spirit, that means Jaden could capitalize more on dealing more damage instead of any like penetration that he has to worry about. So he will do good damage there. Camillo, lastly, he does have access to the sniper sub job, so while he won't be hitting like insanely high damage, he can still hit very hard and he's capable of it because of that situation. Also, he does have magical and or like good magic resistance as well as some spirit, so he could tank a little bit of damage from Omega specifically. Outside of those units, however, I mean, obviously other light units can work as well. Just be mindful of how much damage you're taking and how much damage they can deal in return. For highly recommended units, I could say outside of the light element, that either have strong attack types or resistances against the boss, Summer Lilith will be one of the best. Not only does her limit break imperil the boss from missile, which will allow all missile damage to deal insanely more damage, Cloud is also really strong here because he also has Braver and or he does have strong sharpshooter abilities, which is missile damage if you want to go that route. You can still go Braver and then just kind of like triple slash, cross slash it up, but yeah, it's up to you pretty much. They are strong enough. Outside of those two, the other two I could think of that I can fit into like the top 4 I would say is going to be Lara Croft as well as Winter Victoria. They are both very capable and strong water missile units, and used together, especially for like chaining damage, they will deal very high damage. Also, they both have defense penetration, so they don't have to worry too much about the defense that Omega has. So for equipment to consider, you definitely want to bring White Marshmallow miniature if you do not have it. Try to bring a unit that is resistant to either sleep and paralysis if you can, if possible, because Omega will be spamming those. Otherwise, basically the smart coat for magic resistance is going to be good enough, but ideally you want to not get status affected in general, so yeah, I would highly recommend the White Marshmallow miniature. For vision cards to consider, it's really like what you have or what bonuses you have for vision cards really, but these are just some examples that you can have, kind of like the Scion, the House of Beolov for Ramza vision card, which is good for agility. You use Frederica's Dream for missile damage. You could use Scions of Shadow if you want light attack and light and dark resistance, stuff like that. More defensive cards could be like the Fenrir one for magic attack resistance. You could also use the Omega one if you want to go like a dark slash team and still do good damage and get the magic resistance. You can even use the Carbuncle one that raises the was it spirit of your team. I won't really recommend this one too much, but it is something to consider if you just want to like stack spirit really high and just like pray that the boss doesn't do as much damage in terms of magic damage overall. Specifically for light units. Also because it's not limited, it is more possible to obtain compared to the other vision cards in general. Here we are for the rare raid if none of the information changes and the resistances don't change. So what this is going to be negative 15% to pierce and missile, negative 10% to ice, and positive 10% to earth, so don't bring earth units. Everything else for elements is going to be 0%. For strike, magic, and slash it's going to be 15%. Specifically for defense and spirit it's going to be both 20/20 and faith of 70. That means it can take decent amount of damage for magic based damage types, just in general. So what to bring? You really want to bring ice types that are either going to be ice missile or ice pierce specifically. Additionally, bringing the slow status element is actually effective against the boss if you're able to properly like consistently get it off. So yeah, it is viable. Bringing defense and spirit debuffs and penetration, as well as imperials and plant killers, will be very useful against the boss in general. Damage and status you will take. It will be non-attributed damage, which is going to be kind of like more single target static damage, which is I believe 1,000 needles or 10,000 needles. Just be wary of that, as well as specifically wind to pierce as well, and paralysis. So keep that in mind. Paralysis is kind of annoying. You should be bringing the white marshmallow miniature or have a resistance to that as well. From here, it will be immune to steal time. However, all the other debuffs I said earlier, like the defense and spirit debuffs, are things you should bring. Specifically, espers that have plant/wind killer are going to be like, just off the top of my head, these four. It'll be Golem, Fenrir, Friezus, and Shiva. Now, setting up for the rare raid, highly recommended units I would say that either have an elemental advantage or damage typing at the same time. Definitely Barret is going to be one of the strongest units here because of his missile damage as well as his defense down, and he's ice, so it's going to be very strong. And I had to change this slide specifically for Victora because I did realize she does get her EX the same time the raid is released. I was kind of hesitant to put it here because unit releases on the same day of raid is literally horrible because it means you literally have to rush them EX if you want to get them like very effective. Otherwise there are different units that are already more effective out there right now. But other than that, if you do have Victora ready to go EX to use her, she will be very strong here. From here, last one not only has high defense penetration, ice type, he also hits very hard. He also has the Dragoon sub job, so he does have the pierce damage there. And lastly, we do have Sweetheart Salir, who does have her Chi super shot, which is missile ice damage towards the magic like defense stuff. So yeah, this is a very good like top 4 I would say just in general. Strong recommended units, obviously, as strong attack types or resistances. I'm not gonna go over the same ones again just as Omega because it's literally the same in terms of missile damage being the cactus is weak to it. However, units kind of like 2B and Glaciella can also be effective here because they have strong pierce damage typing like abilities. So it is really up to you on what like you have accessible to or like what you have ready. So yeah, that is pretty much, if you have missile damage you should be fine in general as long as it's not earth. Well, I shouldn't say earth, but I mean Lilith is the bad typing, but she does have the imperil, which is extremely strong, so just keep that in mind. I will say outside of that, different earth attackers that are not particularly missile or pierce will have a bit of trouble against the cactus unless you're Summer Lilith in particular. From here, the equipment to consider is going to be the same as Omega, mostly for the white marshmallow miniature. From here, however, the pod can be very useful just for single target resistance so that you don't take as much damage compared to like all the other abilities from specifically the 1,000 needles and higher. From vision cards that are considered, of the Friezus vision card is going to be extremely good into any ice party. Frederica's Dream obviously for the missile damage, Glacial or the Glacial vision card if you do not have Friezus, and then the Odin vision card for defenses particularly, and astrologer, like clairvoyant astrologer's vision card specifically if you have a pierce user basically, so they can use armor crusher like if they're able to use it in terms of like Dragoons and Lancers, they can use it, I believe. It might be only Dragoons, but yeah, I'd have to double check it. But yeah, this will lower defense, and in general, that will help against the boss, the Golden Cactus in general. So yeah, this is basically the setup for Rare Raid. But yeah, thanks for watching, and as always, if you like it, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe. And yeah, until the next video, peace out and good luck on raiding.